everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Loudwire podcast. My name's Graham. And as you can tell from that voice, we have Obituary for you today.
But not John Tardy.
Legends. Not John Tardy.
I gotta act in his place, I guess.
We've got Don Tardy and...
Terry Butler.
Yes. The new album Obituary is a monster. It's a damn good one. Especially if you like your death metal, just meat and potatoes. Just absolute violence.
It's Obituary. I mean, you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, it's another great chapter of the band's history. So we talked a bunch about that. We talked about the very beginnings of Obituary. The first time hearing John Tardy doing that insane voice, which really he pioneered and no one's really done it since.
He's just a swamp monster.
Yeah, so the first time hearing that, you know, it's either you go, this guy's an idiot, or like, or
that's
this
the
is
sickest
genius.
thing I've ever heard
This
in my
is-
life.
Yeah, this is the heaviest, most disgusting, awesome thing I've ever heard.
There's no adjectives to describe John Tardy's voice.
Yeah, you know, as Obituary like to say, they are the cavemen of metal, and that's the quintessential caveman voice.
We also talked a lot about the state of touring these days because Obituary split up initially. They were kind of sick of touring. So it's like, now that you're touring more than ever, what's your stance on that? You know, do you have the reignited passion? Obviously they do. They're not split up again, but bands don't really get many days off on tour anymore. If you're not headlining, if you're a support act, you have a day off, you're playing a headlining show of your own. A lot of these bands are going sometimes upwards of a month. So obviously that's going to take a mental toll. So we discussed a little bit of that. What's the mental state like from the first day to the last day there?
For sure. And for this edition of Rocker vs. Writer, we tackled the heaviest song ever written. Obviously, a band like Obituary, they know a heavy even when they're tuned to E. So it's not necessarily about tuning down to A or even further or even just having gutturals. So you might be surprised what a band like Obituary might choose for the heaviest song ever.
And for those who don't know, Obituary's first album, Slowly We Rot, was recorded in E standard. They down-tuned after that one.
Yeah, exactly. So being heavy in E, not the easiest thing, but...
Not the easiest thing?
But very doable. That was a rough one.
And another thing for you, did you know that Don Tardy played in Andrew WK and was on Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, he was the drummer on I Get Wet.
So you'll hear a lot about that too. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Obituary is in our studio. Get ready to sit down.
It gets chopped out. Sitting next to us here, we've got two members of Obituary. We've got Don Tardy.
How you doing?
And Terry Butler.
Hello.
So now you know what their voices sound like, and you can keep it all together. So I've been dying to get you guys in here for a long time just to tell you this. I have a habit of being a little bit of a jukebox tyrant whenever I go to bars.
It's called being an asshole.
It's called that too. I tend to lose bars a lot of business, and here's why. Whenever they have an internet jukebox, I always put on Chopped in Half as soon as I walk in.
Awesome.
And
Guarantee.
Yeah,
Touch tunes. You're,
Touch tunes, I mean. Yeah.
you're
It's always-
guaranteed to clear the room with that song. Thanks for that.
That's
So
great.
give myself a little more elbow room, but it always tends to get skipped about 30 seconds through. And I pay the extra credit to have the song play. I probably spent more money on the jukebox than my bar tab a few times. But I confronted a bartender one time about these lost credits and to see how they were going to compensate me there. And she's like, well, I rely on tips, and a lot of people just walked out of my bar, so I'm going to keep skipping your songs.
And it's not a metal bar, right?
Yeah, it's not a metal bar. It's just a casual bar. So it's either like Immolation, Acid Bath, Jezebel tends to play 10 times louder than anything else that's loaded into the Touch Tunes library.
Right on.
So, yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys because I
that
have
is
so
awesome.
much fun doing it.
That's great. I like to hear that.
So anyway, we're here to talk about your new album, Obituary, self-titled album. It's out now on Relapse. And anytime a band has a self-titled album later in their career, it's usually that they're trying to make a statement about something. So what was the intent here with just stripping it down to the essentials, calling it Obituary?
I don't know. I don't think there was a intent. I don't think there was much like discussion. It was kind of a easy decision that, we saw the album artwork from Andreas Marshall, and we knew these songs were just some classic Florida death metal. And why put a 5-worded title across that, that beautiful piece of artwork? And
plus, after Inked in Blood, there's no way you can top that artwork. So we're like, hey, let's just strip it down a little bit, pull it back, and here we are.
Yeah.
This is Obituary.
Yeah, I think it was the day everything became nothing. Have this album called Brutal, just their logo, white background, tracks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it kind of reminded me of that a little bit.
That's totally stripped down, but yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, one thing that we noticed lately, looking at the upcoming dates for Morbid Angel and Suffocation's tour, we noticed that Suffocation, when it comes to even with the off dates on this tour, they have 0 days off
for
about a month.
Yeah, I think it's like 26, 27
which is crazy,
straight days.
Especially when you're playing such brutal music.
Yeah.
I mean, putting all your energy out there, it must be incredibly tiring. Then you go back into the van and you're, with the guys. And I mean, we wanted to know a little maybe more about the touring industry, because it seems like, man, why would you want to play every day for a month?
I've done that in a band I was in the past, and we, did 25 shows in a row, which, it gets brutal. Your body starts to break down and stuff, but, a day off means no money's coming in, but you need to recharge every now and then, mentally and physically.
Yes.
So we like to have a day off about every 5th or 6th show,
Yeah, we were looking at your shows, and it seems like pretty normal, pretty healthy, just to have a day or two where you just go,
you have to regroup,
Exactly. But is the touring business declined in any way to, make you have to put yourself out there more?
Well, the music industry itself, I mean, you don't sell records anymore, so
yeah,
it's all touring
this
revenue.
is a business when you get right down to it, and you're only making money on the road. Your merch and shows. So, I mean, you unfortunately do have to play more shows now than maybe you did 20 years ago.
You have to hit that same bottom line, I suppose. But man, that just seems.
I mean, we have a nice tour bus and it helps. You get a nice bunk to sleep in and all that. But it does wear you down.
Now, Don, what's your take on this? Because you've been in the band the whole time, and it was said that Obituary initially split up in 97 because you guys were sick of touring. Was it really the market that dictated that, or is it just you needed time off?
I think it's just the music industry. It's not like we said we're splitting up. We did it for quite a few years, and you slave to it. You live it. You live out of a backpack, out of a hotel room, out of an airport, out of a van, out of a shuttle, out of a bus, always on airplanes, and told when to go to bed and wake up and when to get on stage, and it just wears on you, beats you up a little bit, and so we just took a break. We kind of just took a step back. And at that point, children were being born and families were being had, and dudes wanted to come home and be normal for a little bit. And so we did that for a little while, and looking back, I think it was blessing in disguise. Just go back, recharge, regroup, realize how fortunate we are and how lucky we are that we actually can do it for a living and play music and it be our job. And right now we're very fortunate and lucky, and we know that, and that's why we're out here and we're busting our asses the way we do.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of bands could benefit from maybe just taking like 3-4 years off, decompress, and spend some time with the family, and then get the itch again to go do this instead of have it be a little bit of a grind.
Yeah, and we never put any kind of timeline on us. We put albums out when we're ready to. We allow the songs to find us and take our time writing them, and tour for it and really support the record, because you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it for sure. And especially with this new album, could not be more excited about it. Just the songs on it and the production and everything. It's just it really hit a home run on this record when it all came together the way it did.
Definitely, it's so damn catchy.
Well, when you're talking about like having 25 days on tour, what's your mental state like from the first date compared to that 25th date?
The first day is completely exciting. You're on the road, you're promoting your music, and you're playing music for fans. To see the reaction's awesome. But by that 25th day, you're like, hey, I want some home cooking. I want to be in my own bed. I want to pet my dog.
Yeah.
And
it's probably it's the challenge of we're on the 24th and 25th show tonight and tomorrow, our last two, but it always ends where they are super important shows. Like tonight at Irving Plaza, Obituary is going to destroy, no matter how beat up you are, how many blisters are on my thumb, how tired you are from a month on the road, you still have to bring it. And these are, every night is just as important as that first one. So it's we're really looking forward to tonight and seeing the New York fans for sure.
Sold out, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lucky
real hard
holders.
getting tickets to that show. Even like with us in the industry, like when we're just like, tickets. This one is like, no. That's like, oh, come on.
Almost
like,
didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, we got taken care of. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Relapse.
We wanted to know the very beginning of Obituary. I can't imagine that first time hearing John do those kinds of vocals, and it could have been the reaction like, what the hell is this? Depending on who's listening to that kind of singing for the first time, because it really didn't exist. So it would be either like, okay, this guy's out of his mind, or this is brilliant, we need to stick with this. Can you tell me about that first time that he went into that room with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is like any other band, we were just kids, and at first we sucked, and the music was silly, and we didn't know what we were doing. We were playing half Metallica covers and trying to write our own stuff, and again, it was just stupid. And John was basically there in the room when me and Trevor were trying to jam, and me and Trevor were trying to get all serious about being in a band, but we had no singer. And John's like, well, until you two fools find somebody, I'll just grab the mic and mess around.
Yeah.
And the joke is, we never really found the singer, so John's still here. But then, it seemed like overnight we went from kind of music we didn't know what direction we were going, and John's voice was still very lost. And it seemed like overnight he all of a sudden just came into the room and he did that growl like the beginning of Slowly But Rot album on Internal Bleeding, and it was just that typical, and we were like, and it immediately, like, song style and songwriting immediately took that same direction, and we started writing the Slowly album that quickly. And I don't know how it happened. I don't know what John did that night going to bed or waking up in the morning, but it went from not sure what he's going to do to that classic voice, and it has never changed since.
So it really was just like, damn, okay, this is it.
Yeah, it was an overnight kind of thing where we're just like, okay, he found it. He's been looking.
And now the whole style of the band changed a little bit. It seems like when you guys started listening to Celtic Frost. Who was the first person to introduce that to everybody else in the band?
I mean, Trevor was so into finding records and vinyl, and before we found that, Trevor always had his Black Sabbath and his Iron Maiden and his the albums
everyone should.
Yeah, everyone had it, and that's what we were jamming to and grabbing broomsticks and air guitaring, and it was that Hellhammer album. I think Trevor and my brother went and they found it at one of the stores in
Apocalyptic
Tampa.
Raids.
Yes. And the minute that needle hit that thing and you listen to the beginning of that album, it changed it all. Yeah, like, I knew what direction everyone did. Everybody knew what direction metal was about to go, and Obituary was kind of, we were just not trying to, but it guided us in that direction.
It was a different feeling back then. It was all new and fresh when you would hear something like that. It was like you had to make sure your parents didn't hear it. Like, oh my God, this is completely evil and dark.
Let's get into some rocker versus writer here. The rockers, Obituary. The writers, Joe and Graham. So we figured the perfect topic with you guys would be the heaviest song of all time, because the definition of heavy is very personal, very subjective, and as guys who have made incredibly heavy music in E, we want to know what you think the heaviest means, and what's your choice for the heaviest song?
I'll let Butler answer this one, man.
Yeah.
Are we talking heaviest Obituary or just in general?
Just in general.
Okay, for me, probably it's Sign of the Southern Cross by Black Sabbath.
Ooh. Sure. Sabbath
That's
needs
one
to be
of the
a part
darkest,
of the conversation.
heaviest evil songs, and then on top of that, you got an angel singing over it.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. To me, that's one of the heaviest songs I've ever heard.
Yeah, some days Mob Rules is my favorite Sabbath
we
album
listen
just
to
because
a lot
of that song.
Yeah, we listen to a lot of Dio and era Sabbath. Absolutely.
Yeah, anytime we're doing our what we call rock and roll warm up, is before showtime. It always seems to include Ronnie James Dio blasting on the bus, and
some format.
Nothing like getting the blood flow, preparing for a show, and listening to something classic that heavy too. Again, it goes back to that word heavy. It's heavy does not mean 1,000 miles an hour.
No,
heavy means feel and just
Feel,
where you can feel it go down your spine. And Sabbath and Dio, just it was right there.
Yeah, I had a friend who had a pre-show ritual. He would jump in his car right before they went on stage, and he would put on Neon Nights, and you could hear in the parking lot his windows are up. And then as soon as the song ends, he hops out and grabs his bass and goes on stage.
Oh, that's Toby then.
That's Toby.
I know
Yeah,
exactly where he's coming from.
Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah.
And I'm gonna go with a different Sabbath song for heaviest song ever. I mean, it's got to be Sabbath, right?
Yeah, I guess that'd be my pick if you.
Yeah.
My one pick that I remember once. Joe and I went to college together, and we were in a slightly altered state. Let's say we turned off the lights and put on Black Sabbath, and I don't think I've ever been more terrified in my life.
Yes.
Just the complete freak out coming over me.
That was the 40th anniversary of that album. That
Was
day, right? Yeah.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
That
definitely
is
was.
totally the beginning of metal
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
I mean, that
Agreed.
song is definitely very evil and dark. And I mean, I can imagine being a kid in 1970, putting that on, freaking out, because, oh my God, what is this?
I think I was transported back to that age in that moment, just with the screams and Ozzy's. No. It's like,
Satan's coming around the bend. I mean, oh my God,
I almost had to run out of the room. It was like getting so crazy.
But my pick is actually going to be Into the Void. And I think when Zach Wilde was on the podcast, he even said that was the heaviest song ever.
The heaviest?
Yeah, he's like, you could play that song on acoustic, it's still heavy.
Definitely.
That's a creepy
it's heavy.
song.
That lurching riff. And, like, you guys have seen Sabbath live, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when they play that song and then just like Geezer's like foundation cracking bass with that, it's
I think back, like, what were they on back then? What were they taking?
cocaine.
Cocaine.
I mean, because that's some
Marijuana,
groundbreaking, crazy stuff. I mean, the guitars turned on 10 and just cranking out riffs. It's like, wow.
There's a story in, I think it was Doom Let Loose, History of Black Sabbath, and they said that Ozzy disappeared for a few hours and he went out in the woods. And he came back with all these weed plants in his arms, and he threw all of it in the fireplace. So I don't know if they might have gone into the void, and maybe that's where that came from.
Have to ask Geezer. He wrote a lot of the lyrics, but
Yes. Who's got a heavier tone than Iommi?
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you who's, to me, probably has, in my opinion, one of the best guitar tones ever in metal is Trouble.
Yes.
Wow.
Trouble.
Okay. Yeah.
Love Trouble.
Oh man, their guitar tone is sick. Yeah, always has been, even from the first record. That record's extremely heavy, by the way.
Yeah.
as well.
Tempter, Assassin.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, Iommi's the master. So
Yeah, I think the closest I've heard, and perhaps even surpasses,
I know where you're going with this.
Maybe even surpasses Iommi's tone is Matt Pike's tone. When you go and see Sleep live, he's just got a stack of speakers, multiple heads.
Yeah.
He's got that Les Paul on his hand, and just something that has to do with his pedals and the exact amps he's using. I feel like his tone may surpass Iommi's in the heaviest.
It's in the fingers too.
yeah,
just,
it's all everything.
just the way
the guitar,
that he,
the wood of the guitar, the tone, the way you pick, the way you play it, your fingers, everything.
to me, I don't think I've heard a heavier guitar tone
Yeah.
live than when we saw Sleep at House of Vans. Really, that just absolutely
They're
melted
all
me into the
crushing,
floor.
definitely. I mean,
Yeah. But then you've got, oh man, if you want to talk about heavy, we're again, Suffocation. Again, I think, in my opinion, the purely heaviest band I've seen live. I don't think I've ever been hit by a brick wall
well,
in terms of live.
if
like
you're at
Suffo.
Irving Plaza tonight, a freight train's going to hit you.
Yeah, well, Obituary,
Chopped
like
in
you're
half.
Trevor's
definitely...
guitar tone is very distinct, and when you hear
Yeah.
it, you know it's him. So he's got a killer tone as well.
Yeah,
So.
Obituary is totally in the conversation. But I mean, we saw Suffocation in a bar playing to like 20
a dive bar in
people.
Stamford.
Right on.
It was I don't know how it was so empty. It was just one show. It wasn't even a tour. But
I don't know. I haven't seen Chopped in Half live. I was at MDF in 2014 with Demilik and Amorphous and all those guys. You guys didn't play Chopped in Half, and I was like, I just need to hear this. Well, so
you might.
I may not have seen the heaviest yet.
Tonight you might.
Very good. Like, who would you say maybe a live show that you saw, maybe in your younger years or maybe even your older years, that was like the scariest band that made you feel uneasy?
Wow. I mean, I remember going to Nasty Savage back in like '84. I was like 15 or 16 at a small pub called Ruby's. And back then there was no pits, it was all head banging, fist banging up, on, But I was in the front row and they had flash pots going off everywhere, and I was puking my guts out because of smoke from the flash pot. It was like the most mayhem thing in the world, But I was like, wow, this is something new and killer. I love this.
So you spewing everywhere made it one of the scariest shows ever.
Well, I mean, as far as, being scared at a show, I don't know if I ever have been, but,
Well, scared for your life is
besides
one
going
thing.
to Gigi Allen and scared that I was going to
saw
get shit
Gigi
thrown on my
live?
face. So.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't tell you how jealous I am.
Yeah.
I'm a
Cuban
huge
club in
Gigi.
Ybor. I think it was a Cuban club. I was way in the back for certain reasons.
Well, yeah, I would not go anywhere near that stage for
Yeah.
sure. Was there bodily fluids involved that
Oh
night?
yeah, the show didn't even. I don't think the show even finished.
It got shut
Complete
down.
insanity broke out.
Every single show you watch on YouTube with Gigi Allen, every show always gets cut off early.
Yeah.
He's never finished a show in his entire career, I don't think. I think I've heard a statistic that he finished only a handful of shows after playing hundreds.
You never went to see the music. It was always to see what this, because forever he said he was going to kill himself. So
Yeah, on stage.
yeah,
no
so
less.
that was why you went.
See if that was the night
See if he
that
was
he
gonna
would
do
kill
it.
himself. I think he said he was going to kill himself on Halloween,
Yep.
but then he kept going to prison every consecutive Halloween until. So maybe it was. He said he was going to do it, but then I think eventually he OD'd. I think before he ever took the stage on any Halloween.
That prison thing seems maybe a little calculated.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, but
It's like,
yeah, I think that
maybe
when he
today's not the
died, he
year.
actually played 3 songs, and it was like insane. So the whole place like cleared out.
Oh yeah, I've seen that footage.
Yeah, then he went with some dudes and found some heroin and died that same night. I think.
Yeah.
But,
That was
fun times.
I think that was in the Lower East Side.
Yeah.
He died right. Oh, what's that bar? He died
I don't
right next to this bar that I always went to. Idle Hands.
Oh, yeah?
A place called Idle Hands in the Lower East Side. And I got told by somebody that he died next door. And I was like, oh my God. Like, but yeah, big Gigi fan.
Yeah.
For sure. When it comes to the term heavy, a lot of people like evil music. It's hard to kind of truly be evil these days, but is there a show you've seen or a band that really kind of epitomizes evil to you?
We were lucky enough we were having to leave Grass Pop, I think it was, or Hellfest. And we were lucky enough me and Butler literally ran before the van made us leave to head to the airport. And we got to kind of sneak to the back side of King Diamond's show.
Yeah, we saw a couple
And
songs.
so we got to watch, like, from the side, some of the wardrobe changes and stuff. And it was sick.
It was
Was it
awesome.
one of the Abigail shows?
Yeah, he was doing the whole album. It was a festival in Holland, I think it was.
That's
Fort Rock or
great.
something.
Yeah. It was cool. It was cool because we knew we weren't going to get to see it because of the schedule, and we were on our way to the airport, and then a couple people were still lagging, and we looked, and the tent was about a football field away, and we were like, let's just run.
Yeah.
They'll wait for us. Let's just go over there real quick and check it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was awesome.
Yeah, we're big Merciful Fate, King Diamond fans.
Of course. Gotta be. Definitely.
Love King Diamond.
I think the most evil show I've ever seen is probably Behemoth. I don't think I've ever seen anything more blasphemous live.
Got a Behemoth shirt on
I got
right
a
now?
Behemoth shirt on now.
Did you
funny?
plan that this morning?
What's
when you
funny
woke
is
up?
No.
I know those dudes. I've toured with them. They're
Yeah.
like the nicest, quietest dudes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We interviewed Nergal, and we were
Yeah.
just talking about how much we love Judas Priest.
We
And
were
how-
talking about Turbo, actually.
We're talking about Turbo and how the gayest Priest songs are the best Priest songs, except Hot Rockin'.
Well, no, that's a killer song, though.
I like Hot Rockin'.
Yes.
Oh, I hate Hot Rockin'.
I like
I haven't-
Even better video.
Oh God.
Where he throws the water on the rocks in the sauna.
Killer. I like some of Turbo, but
Yeah, Turbo
Out in the
gets
cold,
a bad
locked
rap.
in. Those are
that's
good
okay.
songs.
Those are good songs, but
Of course, the title track is amazing.
Private Property can go.
it came back.
Parental Guidance.
I love side one of Ram It Down's awesome, and actually Blood Skies on side two. But
Hard as Iron.
that's killer. That's like a pre-Painkiller kind of way they were going to go.
Yeah.
Some of that.
But if you ever see someone, I mean, Joe, you've seen both Behemoth and King Diamond. Like, what epitomized evil better in your mind?
Two different sides, because one's fantasy with King Diamond, and then the other one is obviously
legitimate
rooted in Satanism with Behemoth. So,
but King Diamond,
there's something to be said about.
He believes in that. He believes that.
No, he is too,
So
for
he's-
sure.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like the story of Abigail. I don't know. There's something about creating something on your own instead of taking something that's already established and still making it evil, because there's so many ways you can go wrong and make it sound corny.
Yeah, I mean, King Diamond was more of the storytelling kind of ghost stories and that stuff. But Merciful Fate was definitely more about Satan.
Don't break the oath.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's like the Walt Disney of metal for me.
Almighty Satan, you are the one.
Yep.
The great creator of all
You're
things
only living
fantasy.
on borrowed time.
Yeah, for sure. All right, everyone. That's Rocker versus Writer. Let us know what the heaviest song ever is in the comments section below. Also want to give a shout out to Chopin, Concerto Number 2, aka
the
that's
Funeral
what the
March.
Funeral March is in there. I think that's the heaviest song ever. Period. If we're not talking about metal, because it's just a little part of a concerto, and then they're like, "Hey, this is so evil. Let's just make it the theme of death." And play it at every funeral.
So moving on to happier things.
Very happy indeed.
Don, let's talk about your time in Andrew WK and even appearing on Saturday Night Live.
Sure.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, it was going back to when Obituary kind of just took a quick break and everybody was doing their thing, but I only know how to play drums, so I was still just playing and practicing, and I got a letter in the mail from a young dude named Andrew in pencil written, and he just kind of said, "Obituary is my favorite band. I love your drumming, and I would love for you to help me." And he sent me the demo, and it was obviously a complete mirror opposite of what I was doing for my career, and
I'd say so.
And it drew an interest because it was different, and it was kind of challenging and completely opposite what I'm comfortable with, and that was it was a cool thing to take on, and of course he ended up being a super cool dude and a really good friend of mine, and I saw it go from just kind of a concept to gold record and 1,000 miles an hour in a spaceship feel, And we did. We got to play a lot of cool venues and events, and Saturday Night Live was one of those moments where I was like, holy shit.
That's
Like,
pretty unbelievable.
when you're sitting there, I remember sitting there in the room, the whole band was in there, and most of the band members I put in the band, they were just friends of mine from Tampa. And so a lot of them were very green, never been on tour, good musicians, but never truly toured. So I'm sitting there and I'm reflecting on it as we're in Saturday Night Live. And, it was that pivotal moment where the door opens, the guy with the headphones on, he opens the door real quick and he says, 5 minutes, guys. And he closes the door, and you're just like, holy shit, five minutes till we have to step out live. And he's like, and by the way, there's 11 million people watching tonight. And I look over, and one of my guitar player buddies that's in the band, he's making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich 5 minutes before. And I said, Frank, I'm like, Frank, what are you doing, dude? He's like, I'm hungry. Here I am. You couldn't, the nerves, you can't even describe it. Just knowing that, you're on TV. It's live. If you mess up, you could do another take for the West Coast feed, but you drop a drumstick or your pants fall down, it's live.
Hard to imagine pants falling down while you're sitting.
Yeah, well,
When
you shit yourself.
So what was the mindset? I mean, was there any difference really just playing your standard show versus knowing that 11 million people are watching on TV, or you just, I'm a professional, I'm going to nail it regardless?
Well, that was it. But there's definitely, with Andrew, it was the first time that I had to experience running the band and playing with in-ears and playing to a click with backing tracks and keeping focus no matter what. And anyone that saw Andrew live knows it was not just a normal show. Within 1 minute of the first song, there's 55 people on stage and you know, with gas masks and holding each other up and pulling each other's pants down. So that's hard enough to focus on the song, but to play to click and focus while that was going on is crazy. So yeah, the Saturday Night Live, I just remember thinking to myself, just focus. Don't get off time. Don't get off time. Don't get off time.
Very
I honestly cannot remember 1 second of the performance.
Just because you were so
nervous,
machine-like, and
I can't remember 1 second of enjoying one beat.
Do you remember who hosted?
The Rock.
You had the
Wow.
that was
And that's
the Rock
why-
show.
That's
Damn,
why.
that was a
That's
good
why
one.
they knew. That's why they knew how many people would probably be watching, because he was the highest rated episode this season before.
Oh,
so when
man.
the dude's like 5 minutes before your performance, by the way, probably around, and we're like, oh man, thanks, dude, thanks for telling me that. Now,
What do you know about pressure?
Yeah, like couldn't I tell you after, like, good job, like, by the way, like 11 million people were watching.
yeah, that was cool though.
They treat you nice over there.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
man. Mayor
to hear.
Giuliani was there.
Oh,
Got to shake
wow.
some hands with some cool people and all the cast, and you know, it was a little bit tight security, but we were able to sneak around and meet a few people and shake hands. So it was a fun experience.
What is a party with Andrew WK really like?
You know what? I experienced Andrew from the very get-go when he was extremely young and didn't know really when it came to partying. He just was a very positive, excited, cool, happy-go-lucky dude. And then he turned it into wanting to party, you know?
Yeah.
I was not a part of the influence of that. I have my routine and have been in the business long enough to know keeping parties at bay before my show.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I don't know. I left Andrew after just a few years of jamming, and then they still move on, and a lot of this partying, from what I understand, gets pretty intense. But I wasn't there for the beginning of it, so Andrew was still a tamed lion when I was in the
Really? And now he's everywhere.
Yeah.
But hey, we want to thank you guys so much for stopping by. The new album, Obituary, a killer record. You can pick it up now. Check it out. Thank you guys again. We appreciate
Right on,
it.
appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having us.
All right, everyone, and that was Obituary. Fun podcast with those guys. The Andrew WK stuff was pretty good. I really enjoyed that. You know, that he's such an odd dude, so I guess just getting any sort of insight onto Andrew WK.
Yeah, it's anytime somebody asks you, what does Andrew WK do? You're just like, he's Andrew WK.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
And, you know, performing on Saturday Night Live, a guy in a drummer in a death metal band, getting onto Saturday Night Live's stage. It's like not supposed to happen.
Yeah, like it's insane enough that you made it in this successful band playing this brutal music. I mean, in the early scene, when you think about it, there's only a handful of bands in the entire world that were making music like this.
Yeah.
So to be able to go from that and get the recognition from there, it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. You know, like I feel pretty satisfied with my life. And then a couple years later, you wind up behind a drum kit on Saturday Night Live, and you're going, how did Obituary lead me here?
Yeah.
That's just an insane success story.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you out there have ever heard any of those really old Andrew WK demos that were recorded way before I Get Wet. I'm assuming the stuff that Don was sent, but it is like some of the most rough, weird, like kind of music that you might assume that you dismiss right away. I mean, I've heard the really, really old version of We Want Fun, and it's just like a child yelling into a microphone, hitting the same note on a keyboard the entire time. Like, we want fun. And it's, you wouldn't necessarily think there's anything to it. I think if I was an A&R guy, I would have probably thrown it in the garbage. But then again, I do still have it on my iPod. So I do listen to it. And Don was smart enough to go, you know, this kid in the white shirt, he's got... This kid in the white pants. He's really got something here.
He doesn't
with
care
this.
when Labor Day is. It's Labor Day, right? With the white pants, or Memorial Day.
Yeah, so
two.
interesting that also Obituary was Andrew WK's favorite band.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but
If we ever get him in here, we have to ask him about that.
I would love to get Andrew WK in here just to crack open his brain and just see what the hell's inside. But thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Loudwire podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. You can get all your daily news at loudwire.com. Hit us up on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at GrahamWire.
You can follow me on Instagram, because I hate Twitter, at Ice Nerve Shatter. It's a Godflesh song. And dude, we didn't bring up Godflesh Street Cleaner for
yeah,
the
but they did after
song,
we actually were just walking down the aisle to the elevators. And we brought up Street Cleaner and those, and it was like, oh, of course, like that crazy industrial, that old footage.
Just go listen to it.
It's just drugs.
Yeah.
Drugs just put into an amp. Oh,
Yeah.
It's great. Listen to that. Where were they playing in that old footage?
I have no idea what club that is. I know
Somewhere in
which footage. I
Germany?
know what footage you're talking about. Justin Broderick used to do a bunch of hallucinogens before going on stage.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he kept anything together. But if you watch a bunch of old Godflesh footage, odds are they're just messed up on a whole bunch of stuff. He actually had his picks plated with gold. So that way the way he would do some sort of pinch harmonics had this weird sound to it.
Yeah, that footage is Godflesh live in Schorndorf in 1990. It's the creepiest, heaviest, weirdest live performance I think maybe I've ever seen on YouTube, in just like some crappy little basement. And Broderick's shadow was on the back wall like Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Weird.
And that's really saying something. I mean, you've gone through pretty much everything metal on all of YouTube making those loud lists. So
Yeah,
you've
very
seen
true.
it all.
Yeah. But, Godflesh, that's some good stuff.
Yeah, so anyway, follow me on Instagram, Ice Nerve Shatter. Follow the Loudwire Instagram, because I run that thing.
Yeah, very true. Thank you so much, everyone. We've got more guests for you coming soon. We appreciate you very much.
And play Obituary on internet.